The first Raw of what is being deemed the Netflix era is upon us. And it was a show that had a lot of stuff to like, but also a lot of stuff to dislike. And just seeing some of the feedback that's been given to it online today, it seems like there's people who really fall into both categories. People who absolutely loved it and thought it was incredible, and people who hated it and thought it was the worst Raw they've seen in a long time. I fall somewhere in the middle. I think there were aspects to really like, but also some stuff that really didn't work. Some big swings that they took that didn't really hit. Now, normally I don't do reviews for television shows. I do pay-per-view reviews on this channel. But since this was a big momentous Raw and it had this really big energy around it, I figured I'd go through and review. Maybe I'll continue this into the future now that Raw is on Netflix and it's so easily attainable. I might start going through and reviewing every single Raw, and also because, trying to get those clicks, trying to raise that subscriber count. That would probably help with that too. I might go through and start reviewing Raw. Maybe I'll just do a test run in January and just review 4 Raws through there. See if I like it more than anything else, and see if who's ever out there watching in YouTube land likes it as well. Not sure. Don't hold high expectations for it. I'm a man who's known to go back on my word pretty frequently. We're going to go through the entire card, not just talking matches, but also segments, promos, pretty much anything that happened, and just giving my brief thoughts on it. I'm going to try to keep it much more brief than I do for my pay-per-view reviews. I'm going to try to probably squeeze this in under 20 minutes. With all that being said, if you guys like the video, please consider subscribing, leaving a comment, leaving a like, as it really does help. But let's go ahead and get into it with Monday Night Raw on Netflix. So we started out with a video package that was sort of the history of wrestling almost, took us through a lot of big moments through wrestling history, and was really just a hype package for the show. I liked it. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was edited really well. I didn't love that Triple H narrated it. I thought that was a little bit corny. And off of that, Triple H starting the show itself, I thought was a little bit ridiculous. He came out, cut a promo, was just putting over how big of a moment this was, asked the crowd if they were ready. They all said yes. I like Triple H. I like a lot of the stuff he's done, and I feel like he should get recognition for all the good work he's done over the past year. But whenever he's on screen cutting a promo, or he's like the narrator to a WWE video package, it just feels a little bit more masturbatory, and it makes it harder to truly compliment him when you see his egotism, which he has been known for so much in the 2000s and late 90s, starting to creep into the product we see. So don't love seeing that. It was a fun way to start the show, and I get why it happened. It's just for certain people like myself, it probably rubbed them the wrong way. The Rock comes out, acknowledges a few people, acknowledges Netflix. They did a lot in this show to really just put over how big this whole Netflix merger was. And even when Rock said it, I was like, all right, we get it. And then like 5 more people said it over the course of the show. He acknowledges Cody Rhodes and acknowledges Roman. Mainly, this promo was supposed to be catchphrases and good vibes, but the feeling I left it with was, oh, so no Cody program then. And I guess no Roman program then. At least not in the immediate future. It feels like those two things could definitely happen, and I'm the kind of wrestling fan who, if you just flip the switch and say, nah, The Rock's a heel now, I'll go, oh, okay, yeah, The Rock's the heel. I'm not super persnickety like that, but it just felt like all of the storylines they had been building up over the past year with The Rock just dissolved in one promo, and it didn't really make sense. I actually, after the show, had to go through and try to look back and just look online to see, was there a segment that I missed from a pay-per-view or from a Raw where The Rock like made up with Cody or Roman? But I'm pretty sure the last time we've seen him was at Bad Blood when he did the 1, 2, 3 thing on his wrist after the tag match. So didn't really make sense. And it was long. It was really long. This was like the entire first half hour of the show was Triple H, then The Rock. And The Rock was out. His entrance took forever, even though it's a short little ramp to the ring. and he just talked for a long time. And this show really was a lot of things I don't care about going on for a long time, and things I do care about being stunted and not getting the time that they deserve. And that would continue throughout the night. Our first match on the card came right after that. It was Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns in a tribal combat match for the role of tribal chief. Didn't really make a lot of sense because right before they said that The Rock was like the high chief of their family. So I don't know why they included that in The Rock's promo package. The match itself, before the run-ins, very uneventful, very slow, very boring. And I feel like it's worse than a typical plunder brawl, which I'm not really a fan of when people are just going at each other with kendo sticks and chairs and tables, because the typical style of a Roman match is start really, really slow, let the heat carry them through the first portion of the match, and then get really hot in the last 5 to 10 minutes. And there just wasn't enough heat to carry this first portion. It was just really, really boring at points. Once the run-ins happened, it did get more exciting, but not really enough to save it. I feel like more than anything, this match didn't live up to the occasion. This was sort of a huge storyline coming to a head, the position of tribal chief, something that's been building for at least a year if you just look at from when Solo defected, longer than that if you look from the disillusionment of the bloodline with Roman Reigns. And this just didn't feel like the payoff that it deserves. The action really didn't live up to the occasion. And that might be because there were commercial breaks in there. That might be because it was slow at the beginning. Or it might be because it was just really not what anyone hoped it would be in terms of quality of match. It was a decent match. I give it 3.5 out of 5 stars, but it's not the culmination of this storyline people would be expecting. And overall, a pretty boring way to get Raw started after a pretty long, boring segment with The Rock. Couple things happened after that. We got a little sort of graphic on screen. I couldn't read what it says. My girlfriend who was watching with me asked if it said Phoenix, so it might have been something teasing Rey Fenix coming in to WWE. Very excited about that if that's the case. We get a bunch of different celebrities in the crowd. I have them written down here. Gabriel Iglesias, Ashton Kutcher, Michael Che, Wale, Rey Mysterio, LA Knight, and the War Raiders. Sure, I like it. I saw some people giving criticism like, hey, we don't care about all these celebrities. I like it. I like when they cut to celebrities in the crowd. It makes it feel big and it makes it feel important. But after that, John Cena was out. He was there to suck off Netflix a little bit more, really just working the whole shaft over the course of the show, putting over how big and momentous it was, rather than giving us actual moments and matches to make it feel big or momentous. It was sort of like they were faking it but refused to make it at all. He puts over how this is being viewed globally. That's the thing they said over the course of the show. It's being viewed globally, and that was a big sticking point for them. He was saying a lot of stuff to make the crowd boo. He was saying stuff like, guys, being the world champion just isn't in the cards for me this year. I'm not going to be main eventing any pay-per-views. I'm not going to main event WrestleMania. I'm not going to be the 16-time world champion. And obviously he was doing that to set up, oh no, he's pulling out the rug from us. Actually, he's going into the Royal Rumble to try to do that. But every time he said that, he said, I'm not going to win my 17 world championship. And I went, thank God, because I'm not a John Cena guy. I'm excited for his run. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but I'm just not excited to see John Cena at the top of the card when there's so many other people I'd rather see up there. So didn't work for me because I was agreeing with everything that he was saying the whole time. Entering the Rumble, I'm very excited about that. I think he'll be a fun component in it. And really, the Rumbles over the past couple of years have sort of just been lifeless and boring. So at most, or at least, Cena will inject some star power and some flavor into that match. I talked about in my predictions video, everyone who would hold every WWE championship of the year, that I do think John Cena will win a world title this year. I think Punk's going to win the Rumble, beat Gunther at Mania. Cena will beat Punk at SummerSlam, but only hold it for a month or two, and then Punk will turn heel and beat Cena again. So I do see him winning this 17th world title this year. But yeah, the idea doesn't thrill me. And this was another long promo where I'm like, I just want to watch some really good wrestling. I didn't get that in the first match, and now we're an hour and a half into this 3-hour show, and I haven't really gotten a lot of good wrestling. So let's sort of move on and get some matches going. Next was a Logan Paul vignette. He says he's coming to Raw and just generally was being a tool bag through the whole segment. And I like Logan Paul a lot, not as a person necessarily, but as a wrestler. So I say tool bag endearingly. And he said he is going, I have it, he's going to dedicate his life to WWE with no side hustles. I'll be excited if that happens. I highly doubt it will. More celebrities: Seth Green, Macaulay Culkin, Danielle Fishel. I think she's someone before my time. And O'Shea Jackson. That was followed by an Alpha Academy commercial. They haven't been a tag team for at least 9 months. So that was super weird. I felt like I was in a time machine back to March of last year. And then we get Rhea versus Liv. The first thing that I noticed about this match that annoyed me, that also annoyed my girlfriend, like at the same time we said, why are they talking about Dom so much? This is a match for the women's champion, Rhea versus Liv. Who cares about Dominic Mysterio? Because the first thing Michael Cole said was, for those of you who don't know, let me tell you a little bit about Dominic Mysterio. No, I don't care about Dom. I want to learn about Liv and Rhea. This was probably the best match in their series up to this point. They hadn't had great matches in the past, and really I feel like this match struck a really good balance between in-ring action and the sports entertainment schlock, the run-ins and interference. I feel like it struck the perfect balance to really just have a solid match. Nothing great. I thought it had a pretty good ending where Rhea took Liv out of the oblivion, hit her with a riptide, rolled her, hit her with another riptide, pinned her. Dom came in at the end trying to be like, hey, you're back on top now. I love you. Let's be a thing again. And she nutted him, hit him with a riptide, and hit a really good riptide. Like, Rhea really got him up, and Dom really sold it. It looked really, really good. But once again, this is another complaint I had from the Roman versus Solo match. This was a big story in 2024, one of the biggest stories in WWE, the biggest story in the women's division, and it just didn't get a big payoff. It got like 10, 12 minutes in a pretty uneventful match. And it feels like this is a match where we're putting it on a graphic to get the hardcore fans tuned in, so they're getting the payoff to this story. But now we're actually just going to give the time that they should be given to Cena and to The Rock to cut their little promos. It felt like this was not what fans had been waiting for, and they forwent giving us what we really wanted, which was a proper payoff to the storyline, a 20-minute match to start off the year solid, finally giving us a good conclusion in this feud. They forewent that to do things that would sort of apply to the casual audience a little bit more, so they could tweet out later, hey, The Rock was on Raw and look at all this crazy stuff he said. It just felt like I wasn't the main audience for this, and after so much investment from that I've put into WWE this year, that kind of sucks to see a little bit. Afterwards, The Undertaker came out and celebrated with Rhea. Cool. I guess it didn't make any sense. They've never been linked in the past. It's just sort of like, let's get Mark on the show. Why not? Came out riding his bike. They sort of fist bumped and held up their fists. Some people probably liked it. I thought it was a little bit weird, out of place, a little bit cheesy. And also, we've seen The Undertaker return like 5 times in the past 5 years. He came back at Mania 40 for Roman Cody. He was on NXT at one point. He beat up LA Knight and aligned himself with Bray Wyatt. And I feel like there was at least one more in there that I'm not mentioning. But yeah, law of diminishing returns. I don't care about The Undertaker. He got a pop in the building, so some people still are entertained by that. Didn't make any sense. Couldn't care less. Next, we have a backstage segment. Bayley talking to Adam Pearce, and Bayley on Raw. Sure, sign me up. Get her in matches with Io. Get her in matches with Rio when Becky gets back. Put them in matches. Just give me some great matches from the women's division this year, please. And Bayley will be a great step to doing that. American Made interrupt Pearce. Chad Gable claims he will win a singles championship in 2025, and he asked for a challenge next week to prove that he can beat a luchador. Seems like they just pulled that out of thin air. But to prove he can beat a luchador, he wants to face the best luchador Adam Pearce can find for him by next week. So it's either going to be Fenix or Penta. Either way, awesome. They're great. Get them both in there. I don't like that Chad is sort of being fed to them. Him saying, I'm going to win a singles championship and I'm going to lose next week. There's a dichotomy there that makes me think, yes, he'll lose next week. No, he probably won't win a singles championship this year. Next, we have Travis Scott. Looked like he was smoking weed on camera. Cool, man. He does the new Raw theme song. Didn't sound very good. I don't like Travis Scott's music, but I'm an old douche, so I'm not the main audience for that. I get that. Then we got to Jey Uso versus Drew McIntyre. An insane entrance for Jey. Huge pops. Really, Jey Uso's entrance, more than anything else on the show, was what I wanted for this show. To just feel like this is what we normally have in WWE, but here's it turned up to 11. And that's what we got with Uso's entrance. The best thing I'll have to say about this match is that Drew McIntyre is an incredible worker, and he really did some great stuff in this match. Jey Uso is not a good worker, and he did not have a very good match. This overall was a pretty standard match that never really got better than the entrances. Like that really was the peak for this match. It was sort of basic, sort of sloppy. And once again, this was more a TV match than anything else because it was like 10 minutes. Nothing really happened outside of what you would see for a normal TV match, and just didn't really live up to the expectations set by the show. Pretty mid. And even being mid, not very good because Jey Uso didn't hit a lot of his stuff. But Drew McIntyre looked awesome. Go Drew! We had a Gunther promo next. It's a new era for everyone except me. I'm the same Gunther. I'm here to kick ass. Great. I love that video package. I really thought it was fun. Then Fluffy's cutting a promo. Gabriel Iglesias cutting a promo after New Day interrupts. They said they haven't been given an opportunity to explain themselves to the WWE Universe about why they attacked D, and they said they got cut for time. Like the interviewer said, now we're out of time. We can't interview you. Weird thing to do with the New Day. I feel like they're not really following up like they should. Like, let's get them in a match to really get that real heel heat. They should definitely be in a match next week. And I don't know if I was going crazy, but I thought they were supposed to be in a match this week. Like, I thought I saw a graphic somewhere where New Day was supposed to be fighting against unnamed challengers on this week's Raw, but got to get The Rock out there. Roman's walking backstage. He says something important about January 27th, which is a Monday coming up in a few weeks, so he'll probably be on Raw then. More celebrities: Tiffany Haddish, the guy from Baby Reindeer, Stephen Amell, Nikki Bella, Braun Breaker, and Tiffany Stratton. And huge pop for Tiffany Stratton. Well-deserved, very good to see. And next we got my favorite segment of the show. If you don't like Monday Night Raw, if you're not a WWE person or for some reason you just skipped this show, go watch this segment. It might be the best wrestling segment we're going to get all year. Hulk Hogan comes out with Jimmy Hart and just manages to get himself absolutely booed out of the frickin' building. He starts off with sort of a mixed reaction, which was like honestly half the people booing him and half cheering. And the half who cheered might have just been like, oh, a surprise. Oh, yeah, surprises. And then they might have wised up to it after, like Cena at the Rumble in 08. But by the end, no one was cheering Hogan. Everyone was booing him. He was doing some sort of ad for his new beer, and just nobody wanted him to be there. This was a return I could have done without. Get rid of this. Give the women's match the extra 5 minutes that this took up instead. And this isn't the first time it happened. This isn't the first time Hulk Hogan's come to WWE and been booed like this. They should get the clue that people don't like Hulk Hogan in 2025, so we should stop putting him on TV. I don't know when they'll get that message, but it should be soon. We have a lineup of matches for next week, and it's probably at this point you're saying, hey, Isaiah, didn't you say this video was going to be under 20 minutes? Aren't you full of bullshit? Yes, I am. Matches for next week: Dakota Kai versus Lyra Valkyria, finals for the Intercontinental Women's Championship. That'll be a fun match, I think, if it's given time. Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser. Again, I feel like that's for the 10th time, but I love them. I always love their matches, so I'm excited for that. Chad Gable versus a mystery luchador, Penta Phoenix. It's going to be one of them. I'm not sure who. They did the Phoenix thing earlier in the night, but I thought Penta was supposed to be released from his contract earlier. Not sure. And then Damian Priest versus Finn Balor in a street fight. I've been the high guy on their matches in the past, so I am excited for that. And it looks just like Raw as normal for next week. And after this show, I'm partially excited to tune in because I do want Raw to just get back to normal and focus on what Raw has been for the past year and what made it great. But also, I'm not that excited because this show really, like, I was not the high guy on the show. But then I said the Hulk Hogan piece was my favorite bit, and it probably was, but that's just because Schadenfreude, I like to see him suffer. The actual best thing on the show, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, easily, like, by a country mile, the best thing on this show. They were given an appropriate amount of time to end their feud, even though their feud was much smaller than some of the other feuds on this card. They got the most time, but they really were able to create a great match. And it is CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, so a lot of the action is sloppy and doesn't really look like it hit that effectively. But they did a good job about rising up to the big occasion of the show. I don't feel like they quite got there, but they came closer by far than any other match on this show. A lot of great back and forth action, really entertaining throughout, even if sloppy at some points. It didn't really detract from the overall feeling that you're watching a great match. And I really loved the finish to this match where Seth was going for his superplex into the Falcon Arrow, but Punk was able to counter that into a GTS, fell to his knees, Seth draped across his shoulders so Punk could pick him up again and hit another GTS for the pin. I think it was an absolutely phenomenal finish to a really great match that did a good job about really enrapturing the crowd and ending a Raw on a really high note. A Raw that I wasn't a huge fan of, but I left going, that was a great match. It'll probably be the best WWE match of the month just because of the heat, the people involved, the sort of big fight feel that it had. It was a lot of fun. I gave it, what did I give it? I gave it 4.25 out of 5, I think. So, great match. As a whole, this felt more like a big celebration than a normal episode of Raw. And I don't normally love the WWE pop and circumstance things they do for like Raw 1000 or the 30th anniversary of Raw, where they just wheel out legend after legend for the big pops instead of showing me actually great wrestling. I don't love that. I don't like when the entrances last longer than the matches and the promos feature more on screen than, like, I don't like that I got more of The Rock than I did Rhea Ripley on this show. That is not what I like as a fan, but it was undoubtedly a very fun show. It had this big momentous feeling around it, and it was helped by everything. The production was incredible. The fans were so up for it. And even though I feel like the material underwhelmed, everything else created this sense of aura and atmosphere that encapsulated everything about this show. And it did something to say, we're on Netflix, be excited. Even if you didn't like this episode, you will like episodes of Raw going forward because this is the quality that we are sending for the production and the fans. And even for fans who like me, who you don't like The Rock talking for half an hour, you definitely don't like seeing Hulk Hogan on your screen. They won't be here next week. You'll get to see the stars you love. I would take 10 Dakota Kai versus Laya Valkyria matches over Hulk Hogan once. So I'm excited that they're getting back to what they are doing good, regular programming next week. And I want them to combine that with the production and with the feeling they were capturing this week. If they can combine those two things, you have a happy camper out of me. Happy camper. You have a happy camper out of me, even. So those are my thoughts. Overall, a show that I didn't love, but created an energy that got me excited for products to come out in the future. This had a similar vibe to Saturday night's main event for me, where I went, okay, that was fine. I didn't like any of the matches really. And I sort of am just left feeling going, oh, that was it. I was expecting so much more. But it didn't tamper my expectations for what Raw is going to be like going forward. And I'm excited to see what is going to happen in this new Netflix era of Raw. I want to know your guys' thoughts. I want to know what you thought of this Raw down in the comments below. Am I being too low? Should I have loved The Rock's promo? And should I suck off Netflix as much as he did? Or am I being a little too kind? Do you think CM Punk versus Seth Rollins was as good as I thought it was? Was it match of the night, or did something else beat it and upset it for that position? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, please consider subscribing and please consider liking for more nonsensical ramblings from a wrestling idiot like myself in the future. With all that being said, I want to thank you guys very much for watching. Your support over these first couple months making videos really means the world to me. I'm getting some minor traction now, a few more subscribers, a few more comments, and it really does feel good to see, even though I'm not quite at PewDiePie yet, but I'm getting there. I'll get by 2026. I'll be there. I want to thank you guys very much for watching. Please do all the stuff. Subscribe, like, comment. It helps out a lot. I have been Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling. I want to thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.